Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming in. Final panel of the day. I'm Steve Dolinsky, the founder of Pizza City Fest LA. Great to have you along with us. Yeah, all right. Hope you're having a good time. Hope you're eating lots of pizza. No lines at the bar, but hopefully the line at Apollonia's, I told Justin we're going to get him his own festival next year because he is certainly the most popular kid at the prom. I'm really excited for this last panel today. We're calling it From Clicks and Likes to Bricks and Lights. How do you build a pizza brand? How do you go from your little pop-up on the corner of Pico and Highland to actually creating an exciting pizza brand that people want to pay money over and over to come see and experience? So, without further ado, let's bring out our guests. Rick Rosenfield, the co-founder of California Pizza Kitchen and Roca, and Brad Kent from Blaze and Bagel Slice, who's here today, and Marc Schechter from Square Pie Guys in San Francisco, and our phenomenal moderator from Panic Pantry, Mr. Noah Galuten. Come on, give it up, guys. Come on.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to our esteemed panel for being here. This is a pretty cool thing to get to do, and it's a pleasure to get to be here. Just out of curiosity, does anybody out in the audience have a pizza business or thinking of getting a pizza business, and that's why they're here? And then who's keeping it a secret and not telling us? Anybody? There we go. We got one in the corner. So one of the things I think about a lot in the pizza business, which is I think a little bit unique to most food service businesses, is that everybody already has a pizzeria. So when you open a pizza place, you are pretty much only transferring customers to you who had somebody else before. How do you approach that separately? And I kind of want to hear each of you talk about that. I'll start at the end with the Grand Master.
So we built California Pizza Kitchen starting in 1985 in Beverly Hills, and then when I sold it 11 years ago, we had 212 restaurants and 14,000 employees. Right? So one of the things that we're in 32 states. So the way I would approach that, and just thinking about business, like wherever I open, there's a chance that a competitor will open directly next door to me. Okay, that's not my problem. I'm not going to worry about it. Never think about it. All I would ever think about is how we do the best job possible. If we do the best job possible, we're going to have customers that love us. If we don't do that, it's not competition that's going to affect us, right? And that's how I thought about it.
Hi. Let's see. So starting Blaze was a little different than starting Bagel Slice. Bagel Slice was never designed to be more than maybe 3-5 units. Blaze from day one was designed to be a national chain. We already had franchise disclosure documents in 26 states before we opened our first location. We had a national distribution agreement before we opened our first location. And then I had developed recipes and formulations with co-packers so that we could have consistency before opening locations. So it was really designed to light up, and that's why it was the fastest growing brand in history at the time. Now there are 350 locations in almost every state and in 6 countries. And so that's a very different model to build than something where you plan to be local and control the local market. I think if you were going to be a local brand, you wouldn't do that. You don't need all that forethought. What you need is good branding, good marketing, good social media these days, and a cult-like following. And that's how see PR lady in the front. It's public relations, but modern version of that, which is really kind of feeling like you're talking directly to the consumer, which is different than just having a brand. You have to be very personalized.
So thank you, Noah, for doing this. Appreciate it. And thank you, Steve, and Pizza City Fest. Pretty amazing. A lot of wisdom and knowledge on the stage here, and I couldn't agree more with both answers in a lot of different ways. But all you have to really do is to take Rick's answer. Look outside to Apollonia's right now. Justin is not worrying about his competitors. He's making his pizza. He's having a creative voice. He's talking directly to his guests through Instagram. He's living and breathing it and doing it right in front of us here. I'm glad y'all are here. I assume everyone here has already eaten Apollonia's, which is why you're here. But that is kind of the answer, right? Like, he is doing that on social media. He's doing that with his product. He's doing that with how he came up with what he did. And the proof is in the pudding if you look at that line. And I think each of us in different ways and at different stages are essentially doing that.
So that kind of, I guess brand is like a relatively, not a new word, but a word that has kind of been more in the zeitgeist in the last 10, 15 years, where like athletes are brands now. Do any of you push back on the term brand? Does it feel like a more corporate idea, or does it, I guess, you're all in different stages of your restaurant groups, and in some cases selling things off, moving on to new things, or opening new things that are from, inspired from things from Rome and whatnot, and you're kind of relatively earlier on in your process. What do each of you consider a brand to be, and what does it mean to you at this point in your career?
Well, when I think about it, I go back to where it started for us, right? Which is, we created the logo of California Pizza Kitchen, right? And in it, I was telling Mary, which changed over the years as we changed our process, but we had wood-fired pizza. So what my partner and I thought about very often was, wow, look at this diamond. But we want to make this diamond and yellow famous, right? And that's literally that's what we thought about it. And there was a certain naivete to it as well. But
you were branding before people knew what branding was called.
So it's the same thing as when we made our deal at that time. It was with Kraft Pizza 25 years ago. Put CPK in the market. It wasn't about the royalty, although that turned out being far more than they would have ever thought, or even we thought. Okay, but we wanted the diamond in the supermarket. I still go in supermarket and see the yellow boxes, right?
It's your golden arches.
That's it. I mean, so let's answer. No, I think brand is a lot. It's what that brand really. It's what does that brand stand for, right? I'm proud of a brand. I was proud of CPK. I'm proud of Roca that we're doing now and trying to establish a new brand. But I only see it in a positive meaning.
Yeah.
And for Blaze was a brand that from the get-go. It was designed more about the brand than it was the product. We wanted people to say, I want to go to get Blaze for dinner, not I want to get pizza for dinner. And it actually turned into that, which is really interesting because it was just another meal occasion. It wasn't a pizza replacement. So if someone wanted pizza, they would go to Square Pie Guys. If they wanted to get, pizza, they might go to CPK, but if they wanted to get Blaze, they would get Blaze. So it's its own occasion.
In the same way people don't get a burrito, they get Chipotle. They're different categories almost.
Right, and that's how it was branded. That's how it was pushed. It was pushed that way, not product first. It was pushed brand first. Bagel and Slice, I pushed it as product first. And I didn't want it to be about me or my style, or I don't have tattoos. I'm not like an entity that could be marketable.
But part of the branding for Bagel and Slice is also, I think, a little bit philosophical too, it sounds like, from my understanding of it, right?
I hope. I don't know that everyone knows what it's about. So I think I failed a lot on the brand because the brand was about, it wasn't just about having bagels and pizzas at the same place. With all the attention we spent on social media before opening and the PR and all that other stuff, it was about talking about what made us different. You had the fire, the wood fire was what made you different. Blaze was about speed. That's what made Blaze different. What Bagel and Slice was about was regenerative organic and caring about people and the environment. And I don't think it resonated, so I think I failed at that. And I don't know what I did wrong. Maybe I'm sure there's someone in the room that could say, this is it. You got to do this, and maybe that's the magic sauce to fix that. But what was amazing is, and back to the point of, I think everyone on stage would agree, if the product's great, people are going to show up. Bagel and Slice doesn't have a line right now, but we have a business that's making money. So we don't need the line. We would love it. We would love more business. We could handle 3 times the business that we have, but we have enough now to sustain it and grow.
I think look, in today's day and age, you really do have to again touch on all these points. Like I don't. Neither of you are telling me this, but I kind of can hear these tidbits of incredible wisdom and see what I've sort of learned through osmosis just by having your pizza as a kid, or having Blaze and coming to Pasadena, and actually in a previous life I sold to your corporate office, but I was in awe at the business, right? And you can start from so many different angles, but I think if you really want to be successful and build a brand, you do have to think about all those things. You have to think about, is this a product first business? Is it about me as the chef? Or is this actually going to be a business? Are we going to give back to the community? How do we do that in an authentic way that resonates on social media? And I don't know your story well enough, but I could only assume that, I'm sure you gave plenty of money. I don't know. I will try not to comment. I'm not trying to comment, but all I can say is from our experience, we started our pop-up. One of the first pop-ups we did is we made pizza for the houseless in West Oakland, and that was just a genuine thing we did. We organized like 10 different pizza makers from the Bay Area. We set up in a parking lot and we fed this entire encampment basically, and we just did it. We weren't even thinking about getting our name out. We just wanted to serve people, but it came through in a genuine way that people started to want to follow our brand and say, what is Square Pie Guys? Who are Square Pie Guys? What's different? And of course, we chose Detroit style, which at the time sort of maybe only Tony's was doing. And Tony, if anyone knows Tony's Pizza in San Francisco, he does every style, so it's not like he's known for the one style. So we went for a very specific lane. We built our entire operation for scalability. We did branding on the pizza boxes from the beginning with the vision of saying, when this goes to your house, you're going to see this all over San Francisco and in Oakland, and we see the boxes in the trash. But the point is, we started with this vision to just kind of like give back and do good through food, and food being an expression of love, and that resonated. But we also, at the same time, had the business mind kind of as part of the early development process. So, it's hard to do it all, but even if you are touching upon pieces of it and maybe focusing on one thing more than the other, you can come back to it and put more emphasis on another piece. But just try from the beginning to think about all the different points that everyone here is mentioning.
Yeah, and I think there's always something to, like, authenticity works better than the illusion of authenticity. It's like when you're, a young guy growing up trying to meet girls or whatever, they always tell you, pretend you don't like her. That'll get her to like you. Turns out, actually not liking someone makes them like you even more than pretending to. So there's, I think, certain inflection points probably at each of your building of your brands that kind of stood out for you. The one that I think about with you a lot is like the collaborations you were doing. Can you talk a little bit about that for a newer brand that kind of really stood out in your own community?
Yeah, and look, I think I'll preface this by saying, like, I think we'd all agree some of what success comes from is there's right place, right time, right? And we had Jeremy Lin, who is NBA star, a legend in the Bay Area, went to Stanford. Everyone loves him. He came into my restaurant, and this is when we had just won in 2019, right before the pandemic. I'm a New Yorker. I'm a Knicks fan. I don't know if anyone here is a Knicks fan, but the last time the Knicks were any good besides this very season was basically when Jeremy Lin was on the team. And I just treated him like a person. I didn't come up to him. I didn't fanboy him. I was just like, here, try this pizza, try our fries, try this, try that. I just treated him nice. And it just worked out where we ended up having a conversation. And he's like, would you ever consider doing a pizza for me? And I was like, yes, obviously. And essentially from that very organic moment, developed a business strategy where we would reach out to people in our network to try to get celebrity chefs or video games celebrities or artists or other folks that have a bigger following than us. And if you can kind of figure out a way, work through your network, see who you know. You never know if you don't ask. And that can be a great way to kind of take your brand from here to here, because someone else with a bigger following is going to vouch for you and say your food's good, the people who work here are great, you should support them. And that's what, honestly, social media can really open that up in a very big way.
Brad, do you have a story about working with an NBA player that was successful for you?
Yeah, with Blaze Pizza from day one, we had an investment group, and someone knew LeBron James, investor guy, and he invested, and we leaned on that relationship, and it is probably what helped to develop the brand, because a lot of people say, Blaze Pizza, that's LeBron James Pizza Company. Well, it's not, but It's okay. We didn't stop anyone from thinking that, and that helped a lot, and it opened a tremendous amount of doors. Like all the media things that I probably did, I imagine more than half of them were because in the press release it said, Blaze Pizza, co-founded by these people. Investors include LeBron James and like these other people, and it helps.
So just real quick, for any of you opening businesses, get LeBron James.
Yeah, he's right across the street. Yeah.
He will be tomorrow, I guess, right? Yeah. Do you have anything that stands out in your memory of like early on, like a inflection point or something that really you felt like helped you really come alive as a brand early on?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. As I reflect back on it, our history, my partner and I, we were federal prosecutors, right? And then we were criminal.
I heard you, by the way, unrelated to this, that you drafted early like legal documentation around Clay versus the United States.
Oh, and Muhammad Ali?
Yeah.
So I actually wrote, my first job out of law school in Chicago was Department of Justice in Washington, writing briefs in the Supreme Court. And I wrote the brief for the government in the case against Muhammad Ali in the draft case.
Pretty crazy.
He won that.
Yeah.
He won it way before I ever saw it.
And he did not invest in
I actually
CPK.
looked at it and I said, we're not going to win this one. But going about to the
Please, go
inflection
on.
point, the reason I was commenting about being a lawyer and my partner and I, and then we were criminal defense attorneys after being prosecutors, and we went in this business because we thought we had a really good idea. This idea of California pizza. At that time, Chez Panisse in Berkeley was doing it. Puck was doing it with long lines or celebrities at Spago. And we said, let's take this California pizza to the masses. So we did it. We literally gave up our law practice and we did it. And the first thing we found is like, whoa, you're not going to do it on a concept. It's people, right? So, this is a people business, right? This is building people and the people that work for you. And ultimately, that became the most important thing driving us. And what I'm most proud of is that how many people work for CPK, that loved working at CPK, and stayed to work for CPK. Right?
And some of those people also, with your guidance, were able to innovate in ways that, are still everywhere today. I mean, your work with Ed Ledoux to
Right.
basically, for those of you who don't know, Ed Ledoux, I guess people are all nodding their heads about Ed Ledoux.
Right.
So yeah, can you actually just tell the abbreviated version of the Ed Ledoux
There's a
barbecue chicken pizza
Well,
story?
it's a long story. So Ed was a genius. He passed away quite a while ago. He was a guru, and Puck discovered Ed cooking in San Francisco at a restaurant called Prego. And he brought Ed down, and Ed was the original pizza chef at Spago. By the time we came along a couple of years later, Ed was not working for Spago and he was consulting. So we literally created a relationship with Ed where he was a consultant and created the original. People think Ed was with us a long time. He actually was not. He was only with us a month or two. Okay, but he was the original pizza chef and chef at CPK, and he created barbecue chicken pizza.
Tell me if I'm wrong, but my research tells me that he wanted to make duck sausage pizza and rabbit pizza, and you were like, "How about barbecue chicken?"
No, he did actually. Now you're asking this. Here's the history, right? I mean, okay. The history is that in addition to creating barbecue, we had like 7 pizzas on the menu. Okay, the rest of them were complete failures. Okay, it was duck sausage pizza, rabbit sausage pizza, lamb sausage pizza, radicchio pine nut pizza, and grape leaf pizza. Other than Larry and I insisted on having a mushroom, pepperoni, and sausage, and that really sold. So the number one pizza was we had also traditional cheese, right? So number one by far every day. 75% of the pizzas were barbecue chicken pizza. The others were traditional cheese and mushroom, pepperoni, and sausage. So if we sold 300 pizzas on a day, we would sell 250 barbecue chickens, and then one rabbit sausage, one lab sausage. So when Ed left, which was after a month or two, Larry and I created the Thai chicken pizza to be healthy. We got it saying, no, we want to have things, and then everything else came right off the menu, and then the CPK menu evolved from there.
Oh, wow, that's fascinating.
There's a little bit of history there.
Yeah, that's very
No, you do your research, man. This is impressive stuff.
only on one of you. Two of you, I Googled the last second. But, he's got a lot more to research. That's true. So, talking about relationships, and this is obviously like a lot of you are starting your first business, but as you start to scale and look into other things and other venues, the relationships you have with your own business and your own employees matters a lot, but also, outside of your own business as you look into finding locations, into working with stadiums, into working with airports and things like that, obviously, are all in different phases. I mean, not to keep taking it back to you, but, like you have early relationships with Pepsi executives, with Steve Wynn, with Rick Caruso, with, all these kind of, was it the CEO of Neiman Marcus?
We were on there, I think it's in circle. There are points, and you got certain points, and you could use them at CPK. We had this great relationship. So one day it's coming. Neiman's out of Dallas, and there's a new marketing officer, and calls our head of marketing and says, "We don't want to do CPK anymore." He said, "Why is that?" He said, "Because a CPK customer is not a Neiman customer." And I said, "That's unbelievable." I said, "No more co-marketing." So I said, "Give me the name of the CEO and chairman of. I'm going to write him a letter." Well, 2 weeks passed, and we were opening a new CPK in Plano, Texas, where there's a Neiman Marcus. And the center was owned by the Taubmans, and Bob Taubman said to me, "I want to bring in Bert Tansky for lunch today," who's the CEO chairman of Neiman's, right? So I said, "Great, okay, I'll meet you there." I come in, and I introduced myself to Bert, and he says, and he was really nice. I said, "So I guess you don't." I said, "Oh," he said, "My wife is a really big fan of CPK." And I said, "Well, that's pretty interesting." Because I want to tell you what you're marketing. So I said, so she doesn't shop at Neiman's, right? Let me tell you what you're. I said, let me tell you what happened. Well, the next day we got a call from the new marketing officer. Yeah. Okay. Seriously, right? It said, "Anything you guys want."
That's a good story. That's a great story.
Well, so Brad, how has that process been for you about kind of learning about this sort of level of scaling, which, I mean, that was obviously the first time you ever dealt with Blaze, like that level of scaling, and how you kind of keep the integrity of the brand, working with the right people to, make sure that it's, like I've done stadium deals with restaurants I've been a part of and been very upset with the results from time to time. So, talk to me about your experiences in that realm.
The irony is that I used to, my background's in food science, manufacturing, culinary arts, marketing, and I worked for a company that actually manufactured products for CPK, including their retail products. So we made the sauces that Kraft turned into frozen pizzas. And I looked at that approach for a very successful chain and saw how they did it. And I was the guy that was reverse engineering what their chef was trying to make us make into something that was scalable. And I said to myself, it would be so much easier if we just skipped all this process, and I was the person coming up with the ideas, coming up with the formulas, finding the co-packers, finding the packaging, creating the menu recipe, and we would be able to scale really fast, and that was the secret sauce to Blaze success, was what CPK had done. But I came in after they had, they did. I'm sure CPK wasn't planning to have 200. I think at the time we were working with you, it was like 200 and something locations. You didn't open the first location thinking you were going to have 200 locations, did you? Or did you?
Yeah, I did.
You did. Well, you should have hired me back then.
As I said, the mistake was thinking that because we have this great concept, we can just do this, right? In the end, that isn't it. And that's a message I would say to everybody here is, it's always about the people.
Yeah,
right?
and
It's empowering people. It's empowering and trusting the right people, right?
even
And
if you
so-
have one location.
Right,
Scalable
right.
doesn't just mean that you can do hundreds of locations. It means you can do one location over and over again when you're asleep. Because otherwise you're there 24 hours a day and on call, and that's not a way to make a successful business.
Yeah, I mean, think about how often you have pizzerias you've gone to where you said whether or not you went on a good day or a bad day.
Yeah.
And, on a lot of square pies at a lot of restaurants and pizzerias around the country, what part of the square pie you get, what piece you get, what day, how far along in the day it is, dramatically affects how good your slice is. And I think that the guys up here all, I think, put a ton of energy and passion and effort into consistency. I think there are a lot of people whose pizza is an A sometimes and a C sometimes. I'd rather be personally a B plus every time than an A sometimes and a C time. You're all going to say you want an A every time, but
So I go back and again, the message, so we created a culture that we called ROCK, R-O-C-K. R for respect, O for opportunity, C for communication, and K for kindness. And we gave out Rockstar Awards. But it was real. I mean, that was the culture of CPK. We said, are you a rock person, right? So I keep going back to the same thing. The only way you're ever going to get consistency from slice to slice or day to day is have people that care working with you,
and then
right?
that transcends the restaurant to your consumer. So when people walk in and the cashier loves the brand, they'll help. Like, they're your best marketers. And then you get people that are fanatics, that are customers, and they help the brand. And then great food, great systems like you all have. Like, you will have that consistency, and you'll have a brand that's going to thrive.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I mean, I'm 5 years into Square Pie Guys. We have 3 locations. We have 2 licensed ghost kitchens with like 6 more opening this year. And I'm in the process of implementing the things that these gentlemen are talking about. So what they're saying is very real, and it is so important. I couldn't be up here if I had to worry about making sure it was an A today or a C tomorrow, and that's really the thing. And look, the pizza community is an amazing community, and a lot of people are very passionate about their dough, their process, their product. And I will say that you have to make a decision at some point when you are trying to scale or figure out what kind of business you want it to be. If you do want to be the guy in there every day who's the marketable brand as the personality, maybe it's different, but you have to kind of make some decisions about what are you putting out, because maybe you can figure out a way to make it a B plus or an A minus every single day, but it shouldn't depend on you, and it has to depend on empowering your employees to hold that passion and hold that feeling so that the guests can pick up on it and want to come back.
I mean, in the restaurant business, there is often, especially in a busy restaurant, a balance between quality and quantity. And so you think about a pizza oven, and let's say you're using like a Marsal or one of those kind of old gas ovens, and if you have wall-to-wall tickets for 4 hours, at some point you have to decide whether or not you're going to close the door for 10 minutes and bring the deck temperature back up, or you're going to take every order and take their money and serve pizzas that are not as good. And so, like, how do you guys deal with that balance? I mean, I guess you'd say just buy more ovens. I don't know. What's your guys' answers?
Well, I go back to, again, it sends me back to, I'm going back to my early days at CPK. And I remember that a manager brought me a pizza that was burned apart. And he said, should I serve this? And the answer is, if you have to ask the question, you shouldn't serve it. And that's how I would approach anything like that. It's never, we all know in this business, it's word of mouth. If you can't send out a bad product, that spreads like wildfire. The decision has to always be, if you had to stop, right? Just take a breath. If you have to close it, right? But you cannot, you have to always make that decision that it's going to be quality first, because I can't have anybody walking out of this door and not being happy, at least as far as I can control it.
And you have to communicate with your consumer or your customers. Like, if your pizza's burnt, what I used to do at my first Olio restaurant is I would say, hey, you know, I cut a hole in the bottom of your pizza. I would go out, leave the kitchen, leave the oven, and talk to the customer because I felt that connected to the guest. Here's your option. I can cut off a piece of this pizza and give you the good part and then make you another one, or I can just make you another one. But at least you're eating something right now while the rest of your table's served. Otherwise, the rest of your table's going to have to wait for their whole meal to be remade. And most of the time, they would say, I'll take half a pizza and a whole pizza, and I'll take some home. Like, it turns out great. And those are people that they become loyal. And people are very understanding if you communicate with them. They're very ununderstanding if you don't.
Yeah, if you just keep saying, oh, it's only 5 more minutes for an hour, like, if you're just honest with them, for the most part, they will understand, or they weren't going to like it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, in let's say the more digital age now, I can't tell you how many like 1-star Yelp reviews we've been able to turn around by just striking a conversation, reaching out to somebody. Even some that when you read them at first, you're like, wow, that sounds like an awful experience. If you just communicate with them, most people want to have a conversation. They want to tell you how they're feeling. But going back to the quandary that you bring up, which is the quantity, quality, the never-ending moving target. I mean, try to do yourself as many favors as you can when you are building the business, right? Because, you know, CPK, for example, it's wood-stone ovens. I forget, do they rotate or not? No. Oh, I was talking about the ovens at Blaze, pardon me.
Well, they use woodstone too.
Yeah, also woodstone. But I mean, point being, like, you know, these are ovens that they don't necessarily suffer as much from this pizzeria problem that you're talking about. We use an impinger oven, which is a belt. We set it has a setting. We don't have to worry about it burning in the same way because we've built it into the equation that if you put it on the belt, it's going to cook the same every time. Doesn't mean that mistakes don't happen because it's a human business, but at least you take one thing out from the very beginning by design and do yourself a favor of not having to go down that road every night you open your doors.
Well, of course, just as we talk about this, there is an elephant in the room in all this, and that is that when you have that customer in front of you and you can deal with it. Now what happens when the pizza has been delivered to somebody and they ask for the barbecue chicken pizza, but they got a tie.
And delivered by someone who doesn't work for your company.
Right, so now there's the biggest problem, right? The biggest problem is when it goes out the door and you no longer can control it, and now you have an irate customer because you get home and you got something wrong or something's missing. That's a customer, you cannot solve that problem. So the way we tried to do that was have our best people in takeout. Yeah. Literally, it's like, whoa, you have to have somebody really thinking at that takeout and putting that takeout together, right?
Well, so that actually begs the question of, you know, as we look at this sort of ever-changing food landscape and of third-party delivery systems, where there's a very good chance now that some decent percentage of your customer base will never talk to an employee of your company once, will never interact with your website, and will go through a third party. They'll order food, somebody else will pick it up and deliver it, and then if they want to complain, they complain through that third party system. How do you maintain your brand in these conditions?
I'll just, you know, what's the title of this panel? Clicks and likes, right? I mean, that is, I think, where social media can come in such a powerful way. Most of those complaints, we do 70% of our business out the door. I'd say about half of it's through DoorDash. All of those complaints tend to come through our DMs because we've set up a precedent with our customers and the way we communicate on social media to reach out to us first, to not complain to DoorDash because they can't actually solve your problem. And we have a policy, if there's an issue with a DoorDash order, we'll always refund it and we'll give a gift card for the next experience, and we take note in our CRM of that customer. So we are trying to get their data, which is kind of interesting. We're getting their data in that direct communication because DoorDash obviously doesn't give it to us. But I do think that is where, if you can establish this sort of ongoing dialogue through social media with your guest, that's where you create that opportunity yourself. So you're giving it up front by partnering with DoorDash, but then you earned it back through the voice on your social media.
And Blaze Marketing did something really clever, but because Blaze is a franchise system, they didn't have control over everything that a franchisee does, because the franchisee might want to save a penny or two. And the idea that Blaze Marketing came up with was a sticky note that would go on every delivery box with a QR code to go back to our quality, our guest recovery team. And we got 100% of those, email addresses, and we were able to respond within 72 hours, which is not fast enough, but that was the promise. But most of those franchisees did not put those 1 or 2 cent stickers on every single box going out the door, and that would have been such an easy way to recover any bad experience. Almost.
And what if you ordered your pizza through a server at a cabana at the Wynn Casino and you're not? I said, well, what if you ordered your pizza through a server at the cabana at a Wynn Casino? Is that similar to third-party delivery?
Yeah, no, we left that to Steve.
That's specific. That was specific to you, that question. I think this sort of the brand element of this, I'm kind of fascinated by this. You know, there's so many different ways of being successful as a restaurant. And a lot of it is up to the person. For some people, it is having a business that makes money. You live above the pizza shop. You're Dom DeMarco. You make it forever. And maybe you let your kids open a weird one in Las Vegas. And then, I mean, they're very different looking pizzas. I'll say that. And then for some people, it is scale. It is, you're not going to get investment unless a VC thinks it's scalable. So for each of you individually now, and actually, you're all in different phases doing new things, and in some cases starting new brands, in some cases selling ovens, or whatever the next phase is going to be for you. How do you guys each define success for yourself going forward?
Well, I mean, it's a great question. Look, when we started Square Pie Guys, it was about community and giving back, and I think if we can do that all across California, I'd be pretty happy. While we did design the business to go to many locations, when I was making pizza in a parking lot in West Oakland for a houseless encampment, I certainly wasn't like imagining to be 100 locations. But now that we have miles under our belt and we have these deals in place, and the folks in the Bay Area really love and support us, I could see it happening. I mean, I would love to get down to LA. I'd love to get up north in the Pacific Northwest and just kind of keep inching our way east and maybe get to 30, 40 locations. That'd be really cool for us. But ultimately, making an impact in every community that we open a restaurant in and delivering joy, that's the big thing for me.
Brad?
For me, like I set a kind of a goal line for every entity that I start, and the objective for my first catering business was to cater more business than I needed so I could turn away business. So when I was turning away business, I was like, yeah, success. First Olio success was going to be that I could step away and actually open another business, and that turned out to be Blaze, which was pretty big. For Blaze, it was to open 350 locations because I knew it was a good idea. We got to 350, and I got fired pretty much the same day. So that was pretty awesome. And then with Bagel and Slice, it was to be successful at making bagels and pizzas out of the same building, which seemed crazy, like to do completely different products. Like when I opened the first Olio, I called it Olio Pizzeria and Cafe, and I bought an expensive espresso machine thinking that people were going to go, oh, and cafe, that means I can go there for breakfast. So I did breakfast calzones and things, and people showed up at 12 o'clock asking for pizza, and nobody ate the breakfast. The scones that I was making at 4 in the morning, nobody cared about, and they would spoil every day. And that coffee machine I sold because it was a pizza place. So for Bagel and Slice, the success was being successful at selling bagels and pizza. And what's crazy, if you go to Bagel and Slice at 8 o'clock tonight, you will see if we have bagels left, there will be people eating bagels and pizza at the same table. So like that's awesome. And then for the other stuff that I'm working on, it's always we started a gluten-free bagel business. It was to sell bagels in New York, and now we're in like 100 locations in New York, and we just got Russ and Daughters. So like, okay, I'm done. I'm successful. And so what's next? I don't know. Like whatever it is, I'll set it out, and I'll set the goal of where I want to go, and I'll get there, no matter how much I have to claw and scratch to get there.
I think about, obviously go back to CPK, but right now we're starting a new concept, Roca, which is RO for Roman and CA for California, with my wife Esther, who's here. And when we talk about people, and there was actually, when I talk about my partner Larry Flax, and we went into the pizza business. At that time, Esther and I had a 2-year-old, And Esther, who grew up in his Italian family in Birmingham, Alabama, thought she had married this successful lawyer. Now she was getting out. And then the next thing, she was being the hostess at the original Beverly Hills. So she did that. And now with Roca, she's back in the front, keeping an eye on things. So as for us, we love the Roca product. We're this Roman pizza done with the high hydration and long fermentation. We love the product. Okay, but what I'm most proud of, keep going back to CPK in this sense, and the message that I have is, and you talked about venture capital guys. Well, when we sold CPK, we had 35 regional directors that had been with us an average of 14 years. And they were probably an average of 37 years old. I mean, so we grew people from within the system, and the best people, the rock people, became the regional directors. That's what I was most proud of. Then when we sold the company to the venture capital guys 11 years ago, they fired almost every one of them and brought in new younger people and managing double the number of stores. So that is not a formula for success. That is out of it. But what I'm proud of is how many people that I meet in life. Every day I meet somebody that worked for CPK that will come up to me and say, we loved it, right? That's the pride that Esther and I have, that we get to really enjoy. And again, I keep going back. It's don't fool yourself that it's about a concept. It's about the people. It doesn't. If you could have a great product, if you don't have people that can do it consistently, you have no chance, right? And that's it.
Yeah, you can teach anybody how to make a pizza. You can't teach them how to care.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to have people that care. You have to trust the people that care. And then there's the hardest part comes is you actually have to not have people stay with you who don't care. Mm-hmm. You can kind of cast that any way you want, but that's really what it comes down to. It's interesting. Again, I go back anecdotally to me, and a line that one of our managers or directors came up with that I thought was great. He said, there's somebody in your restaurant. Well, first of all, we all know that the restaurant goes to the lowest level. One person comes in a bad mood working for you, everybody goes to that level, right? That's what happens, right? That's really what it's all about. And so one of our regional directors would say as he would talk to managers, he said, there's somebody in this organization, there's somebody in your restaurant that's working for you, and you just have so tired, you just wish you could push the button to make them go away, push the button, right?
Yeah, the worst decisions usually that get made in restaurants are not removing somebody because you don't have anyone to replace them. That person, mold doesn't stay the same. So with that, I think we can take some questions from the audience. If anybody has any questions, then you can raise your hand. That's the customary way of asking a question. Or if no one has questions, then we can just ask. Yeah, we can ask more questions about your relationship with Pepsi CEOs and things like that.
You like that? There is a lot of history.
There is a lot. I got lots of notes on you here. Let's see what else I got here. Yes.
So thank you very much. Oh, thanks. My question is, how does building a brand in light of social media today, how has it changed? How has social media changed building a pizza brand today?
Well, you haven't existed before social media in
That's
a pizza
true.
brand, so
I
you're not
did
allowed to answer
exist
that question.
I think it just, it's really fun to, in theory, it's not different, right? It's like you have to be marketing always, right? It's something you can't not do. You have to constantly do it. I think the amount of content you have to produce has just increased, and you have to be, I would say, more strategic about the way you go about it, because you do have to invest time into building people. You do have to invest time into creating recipes that are scalable, that are also marketable, and all of those things sap at your bandwidth, and you can't just focus on one of them. So you have to be very clever in how you design the process to go about putting out social media content all the time. But at the end of the day, it is about pretty much posting every day. So whether that's leaning on influencers, I know that a lot of restaurant owners think about foodies or whatever, however you want to label them, as like a leech, or maybe they're coming to get free food. They're good. If you can weaponize them for your business, for your marketing, they will create content for you. They can take that off your plate entirely, and then you can focus on things that maybe you think you're better at, or maybe you think are higher value. You just have to find a good strategy to constantly be putting that out, because social media is perhaps the most competitive place. And if you aren't able to kind of harness it, the reward might not be there. So you could be putting a lot of energy into it and not getting a lot back. So it just has to be very strategic about how you basically mine or create the content.
Brad?
I'm Gen X, so I'm going to preface it with that. So I think that social media is important for attracting talent to work at your restaurant. So these are young folks that engage with social media. In fact, they communicate with their friends through social media instead of by texting, even in some cases. So they want to see what the brand is that they're going to join, and if it's cool and they want to be a part of it and they believe in what you believe, then you might get them. I think that's where it ends for me. I don't think that we're drawing customers into our restaurant because of our followers. I think that's nonsense to think that. With some brands, sure, that's really important, but that's like trying to say, like, I want to start a brand like In-N-Out Burger. Well, that's an anomaly, and so is the anomaly when it's a restaurant that has 100,000+ followers and they're selling more merchandise than they are food. So I think you put out great food, you have a good mission that you really believe in, that you really are who you are, then I think that authenticity is what's going to shine through more than the picture that you want people to believe of who you are.
Well, Rick, social media didn't exist when you started CPK, but it does now that you started Roca. How have you approached it?
Well, Mary is right here. So Mary Wagstaff, we have to ask Mary to come up and answer this.
This is grassroots marketing. You're asking the question at the panel.
It is. So as
we'll
I said,
wrap up on this
Mary
then, if people
Wagstaff
want to get
runs our marketing, and so we talk about this all the time. And I'm with you that in the end, what I care most about is sending out happy people and word of mouth. For building a food brand, again, authenticity. Once again, I think where I bring in this, which is with building a couple hundred restaurants, I've had successes and lack of successes, and some start really, really fast, and some start slower and grow, and I've seen all of this. And the one thing I'd say is, don't count your customers, count the happiness of your customers. Because the first thing is we could open and get crushed, okay, and send out and mislead. And I've talked to another restaurateur, his famous restaurateur, about this. He told me how fabulous his restaurant was doing, and I checked him and I said, I don't want to say this to you, okay, but the truth is I know how busy you are, but I am not hearing things that you'd be happy about, okay? And he said, what are you talking about? I'm making so much money. I said, I honestly, because he was a friend, but I said,
it was Ray Kroc.
I'm not going to tell you. He is a very successful guy, though. Been successful in other restaurants, not this one, as it turned out. He said, you're looking at the wrong metric, right? Is count satisfaction. Just having 1,000 people running out in the community saying they hate it is not good, right? Right. So that was a.
Well, I just want to say thank you. Do you have one last question? But we don't let people eat the last slice of pizza, but go quick.
How did you guys know when you were ready for a second, third location, or just the second? I mean,
well, for us, we did the first one in Beverly Hills and the second one very close by in Beverly Center. We knew we wanted to expand, right? And so I guess the answer to that go back to the same thing I've been saying all along. You will know you're ready to expand when you have people you trust that can take over that both restaurants, right? That Unless you have people you can trust, you have no chance. If you have people you can trust, you can then deal with it, right?
But like, I hired a 16-year-old female for Bagel and Slice before we opened. She had never had a job in her life. She was the manager of that restaurant within like 3 months. Homeschooled. Maybe it's a homeschool thing, like, but work ethic that was off the charts, intelligence, just got it, customer service, speed, everything. And so there's that generation. And then there's also her mom works for the restaurant, Gen X, different work ethic, like work hard. Like, so I think that it's important to hire like,
Just that one family.
that family base, that mom and that daughter. No, but to hire
Go to
different
that
generations
homeschool.
of people, and to hire for talent, not for like this person that's gonna like look the best in your restaurant. Because sure, that look is great for social media, but it may not be great for the guest experience.
I mean, we've all had like the server who's been at it for too long, who's like the 40-year career server who's just like hates his job but puts on the fake smile and tries to trick you into buying things, and we all hate it. So yeah. But anyway, let me just say thank you again to everybody. This was a beautiful panel. You guys were all wonderful, and I want to give you guys your last 30 seconds to eat a slice before everything closes. But
Yep.
let Steve close it.
Thank you guys. Rick, Brad, Mark, Noah, thank you guys for coming out today. Really appreciate it. All right, you got a couple of minutes left. Get one more pizza before you leave, please, because most people have a little bit of pizza left. They have not quite run out. So grab one more slice on your way out. Thank you for coming, everybody. Great to have you here. We'll see you next year.